Hello again, everybody, and welcome back. Yeah, Lois Wayne, what an interesting painter, right? You see how his schizophrenia potentially develops through his painting of those cats. I think his painting of the cats, his later painting of the cats, are more interesting than those other ones. So these people that have schizophrenia, maybe they're tapped into a reality that we're not. Very interesting thought. Lewis Wayne had late onset schizophrenia, and that is somewhat of a rare form of schizophrenia. I love this quote that you're looking at by Andrew Solomon. I know I've mentioned him before in class. He wrote a book called Far from the Tree. And I know I've told you guys and girls stories about my son, our son, Emmett, who has Down syndrome, and how Trish and I had to kind of wrap our heads around that even before Emmett was born when we got the news. And that was a tough process. Andrew Solomon writes about that. He's got a whole chapter in his book, Far from the Tree, on parents that have children with Down syndrome. Really, really excellent stuff. He also has a cool chapter on autism. And Andrew Solomon writes that parents that have children who have autism, they have to adapt to this new reality, say when the child is 2 or 3 years old and the diagnosis comes as the child doesn't make progress, say with certain movements or certain speech patterns. Well, with schizophrenia, I love this quote by Andrew Solomon and how he describes parents that have children with schizophrenia. They really see their child disappear. Typically, schizophrenia happens and starts to develop around the age 17 or 18. And imagine being a parent and having a child your age and seeing that child start to deteriorate and be almost replaced by this new person that has this new reality. So Andrew Solomon, awesome writer, great book. Check it out. You're going to see a bunch of symptoms just kind of pop up on the screen here of schizophrenia. Really, really interesting to examine some of these symptoms. You have disorganized thinking, disturbed perceptions, all different types of hallucinations, really starting with auditory hallucinations, very inappropriate emotions and actions in the social context. It's really been called autism plus delusions. And again, that third bullet point, it's very much like Alzheimer's disease. It doesn't really accrue in the person, but it really replaces the person. It eliminates the person. And high rates of suicide in the world of people with schizophrenia. Some of the causes are equally fascinating. Again, some of the causes are debatable. Scientists go back and forth on this. Cause number one, in the nature, which is really a genetic vulnerability. You see a lot of interesting cases and strong correlations, I should say, of schizophrenia developing when the mother gets a specific flu virus in that second trimester in utero. We'll see what happens with women that are pregnant now with COVID-19 and this new strain of virus. Let's say 17 or 18 years from now, will we see a stronger correlation of schizophrenia? We'll wait and see. Reason B there, or cause B, when there is a lot of personal trauma in the mother during pregnancy. Famine in Holland during World War II is one small example. You see a really dramatic increase in the infants then developing schizophrenia, say 15 or 20 years later. What's going on in the mother and her chemical imbalances, that's an interesting take as well too. But there is nurture aspects and nurture causes as well too. If a young child suffers some type of severe head trauma, or if there is a lot of lifetime stress in, say, abused children or immigrants moving into the cities, that also is a cause. Equally so, recreational drug use. I don't want to scare anybody, but again, Andrew Solomon writes about this in Far from the Tree, specifically cannabis, marijuana. They do find a link with just really limited marijuana use, even as little as 1 or 2 times, to a higher rate of schizophrenia. And again, we've talked about drugs, and we know that it is just a reality in our culture. Be a conscientious consumer in that world too, because again, this is a reality, and they are finding links out there. Some of these treatments, the horror stories, if you look at what they did to people 100, 200 years ago with schizophrenia. Today, we give them drugs. We medicate them really to the highest levels. One powerful drug is Thorazine, and you see some of these testimonials pop up. And very powerful drug, and you'll